All right, so we are here now with the Chapter 3 Chemistry Study Guide review. So we're going to walk through each of these. It may take an hour, it may take a half hour. Either way, we'll figure out what's going on and figure this stuff out together. So we're just going to start right down the list. There are, let's see, how many questions total? There are 28. You gotta remember how to scroll that. You don't want to see a picture of my MacBook. So 28 total. Not very difficult, but here we are. So first things first, we will start with the true false. Let me see. This first 9, what we're going to talk about, we're just going to talk about them, not probably going to write stuff down. So for number 1, it states that crystallation is a separation technique used to produce rock candy from a sugar solution. If you remember reading in the text, that is a true statement. Crystallization just literally forms crystals onto whatever your basically material is within the solution. So number 1 is true. All right, so number 2. Let's talk about this. A carbonated beverage that contains carbon dioxide gas in a solution is an example of a liquid gas system. That is false. So what we have going on here, as you have carbon dioxide within the solution, you actually have a gas liquid system, meaning the gas is in the liquid. You don't have liquid within a gas. All right, for number 3, orange juice is a heterogeneous mixture. So let's see. For this, we're going to say that there is pulp. So there's pulp in our orange juice. So if this statement is true, that means you're able to tell the difference between stuff that's within the mixture. So here we have orange juice and pulp. You can tell, obviously, the juice from the pulp because you can physically see it. So therefore, this answer is true. Orange juice is heterogeneous. So next, we're going to have number 4. The periodic table organizes elements into a grid of vertical columns known as periods. That is false. So the vertical columns, these are known as groups or families. They are not periods. Periods are left to right on the periodic table, whereas groups and families are up and down. So number 4 is false. Number 5, milk is a homogeneous mixture. All right, we see you. You're in E steps behind. That's fine. Milk is homogeneous. That is a false statement. So if you have milk and you let it sit or let it out of the fridge, it'll actually start to clump and curdle, and it separates itself. So therefore, milk is a heterogeneous mixture. The number 5 is false. So far, hopefully so good. Give me just a split second. So, number 6, we have seawater is a substance. No, that just can't happen because seawater, say in the Caribbean, may not have the same composition as seawater in the Indian Ocean. Therefore, the answer for number 6 is false. Seawater is not the same throughout all of the world. There's different stuff that makes it up. Number 7, magnetization of an iron rod is an example of a chemical change. If you remember from physical science, we briefly talked about magnetization. Actually, we talked about it quite a bit. But magnetization is not a chemical property, but a physical property. You can actually make something magnetized, as well as you can reverse those poles, drop it enough, and demagnetize an object. So over time, magnets can actually become basically just pieces of metal. So number 7 is false. All right, number 8. The change in the color of tree leaves in fall is an example of physical change. Well, if we're just talking about color, yes, that'd be just like changing color of something. However, we're talking about a tree leaf dying. So when the color of tree leaves are changing, the tree is actually going through a change and the leaf is dying. It's about to fall off. That is a chemical change. So therefore, this answer is false. And number 9. Mendeleev's original table could accommodate elements that did not exist. That is a plain and true statement. When he had it organized, he left spaces based off of what he assumed would be there. He just did not have the answer to what was there yet. This is a true statement. So, number 10 here, moving on to the multiple choice. So no math yet, so there's nothing really to show. Matter that has a uniform and unchanging composition is known as a substance. That is a definition straight from the textbook. Can't really explain it any more than that. So, number 11, law of conservation of mass states that during a chemical reaction, total mass is what? It should be, if you did it right, the same. So that would be B. Because no matter what, even if a reaction produces a gas, that gas still has mass, and it still had to come from somewhere. So if you were able to take the weight, or sorry, I shouldn't say weight in this case, if you're able to take the mass of the entire system before and after a reaction takes place, you should have the same exact mass, no matter what. All right, so that's number 11. This is number 12. Let's see. Which technique uses a porous barrier to separate a solid from a liquid? All right. A porous barrier, that would be filtration. So what happens in filtration? We have a mixture that's poured through a filter, generally filter paper in chemistry. That would be your porous barrier. Then it's folded into a cone shape. Then you have a liquid that passes through this, leaving behind a solid or whatever you were trying to filter out. So our answer here is filtration. That's letter D. Next, which of these is not an alloy? So an alloy is basically a bunch of metals mixed together to form something, some sort of substance. Or I shouldn't say substance, I should say some sort of material. So in this case, if you are trying to figure out what is not an alloy, you could be looking at a periodic table for this. If you look at a periodic table, you will find that brass is not there, neither is bronze, nor is stainless steel. Tin is on there. Its symbol is SN. So, therefore, number 13 would be D. Okay. So, if we're good with that, we'll move on. So, number 14 says, which of the following substances is an element? Same as the last question. Look at the periodic table. Baking soda is not an element. Salt, not an element. Sugar, not an element. Iron, its symbol is Fe. So therefore, it's an element. Therefore, choice B is your answer. Okay, so next. Which of these following substances is a mixture? So, a mixture is defined as a blend of two or more pure substances in any proportion. So, a mixture would be B, gasoline. There's not much to explain there. All right. Any questions so far from anybody? Are we good? Not good? All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to assume we are, in fact, good. I'm getting a we good, so we'll move on. Period. End of discussion. Number 16. Let's see. Gotta move my light here real quick. A chemical composition of two or more different elements joined together in fixed proportions, meaning does not change, is known as a what? Compound, element, homogeneous mixture, or heterogeneous mixture? That would be a compound. This is once again just a textbook definition. There's not much that can be explained with that, because it's pure elements being combined together. It can't be an element if it's two elements combined together. I mean, you could probably argue a little bit for a homogeneous mixture, but really still not correct. Heterogeneous, no. So therefore, it's letter A. All right, so then number 17 here. The law of blank states that a compound is always composed of the same elements in the same proportion by mass. The law of what? So if it states that it's always composed of the same stuff in the same proportion, well, It's not the conservation of energy. It's not the conservation of mass. If it's always composed of the same elements in the same proportion, that means it's not multiple proportions. It's in fact definite proportions. Meaning a compound's always composed of the same stuff in the same proportion. So it's definite proportions. Choice C. All right, so here we are. Switch to the second page. All right, so here we finally have a little bit of a math. You have an 8-gram sample of aluminum, reacts with oxygen to form 15.2 grams of aluminum oxide. We'll actually write this out. So give me a second. This is number 18. Sorry, hit the mic. You have 8.00 grams of aluminum, reacts with some unknown of grams of oxygen, forms 15.2 grams of aluminum oxide. Don't worry about those numbers that I wrote that are down here, the subscripts. We'll be getting to that here in a couple chapters. So, let's talk about this. It wants to know how many grams of oxygen are used in the reaction. So this should be pretty simple. We have this many grams of aluminum plus, well, how many grams of oxygen got us this many grams of aluminum oxide. So the law of conservation of mass says that this plus this has to equal this. What we can do, we can take the 15.2 grams, subtract 8 grams, and that will get us our answer for oxygen. When you do the math, 7.20 grams. That is choice B. So that is your answer there. Number 19. This is once again just a statement. We don't have to do math here. It says, which of the following formations is a physical property of copper? That will be here in a little bit, about 9 o'clock. So what a physical property is, we'll just remind you of that. A physical property is a characteristic that can be observed or measured without changing the composition of an element. So, let's see. For copper, so we have a deep blue solution when in contact with ammonia. That's a chemical reaction, so it's not that. B, a new substance when combined with nitric acid. That's once again a chemical property. C, a green copper carbonate compound when in contact with moist air. That's also a chemical change. So therefore that leaves us with D, a formation of a drill gauge and wire. So your answer for 19 is D. All right. 20. Looks like we're back to some math. You have a 76-gram sample of an unknown compound, contains 12 grams of sulfur. What is the percentage by mass of sulfur in the compound? If I remember correctly, these answers are not correct. I believe so. We'll find out. I think it messed up when I was generating this study guide. So we have 12.9 grams of sulfur. And what this does, this reacts with something to, this reacts with something to produce 76 grams of that something. We want to know what the percentage by mass is of sulfur. So all you have to do, take the percent mass formula. It is the mass of the element, which is sulfur in this case, divide it by the total mass of the compound, which is 76.0 grams. Then multiply that by 100 to get your percentage. And give me a second. Make sure you see the numbers and the calculator. 12.9 divided by 76. And that gets us the correct answer of 16.97%, which gets us an answer of B. Okay. 21. Bromine element occurs in what state at room temperature? This would be on your periodic table. So if you look at your periodic table and you find bromine, you will see that bromine is a metal. Sorry. Not metal. Sorry, so only non-metallic element that occurs in a liquid state at room temperature. So the answer for 21 is B. We'll move this paper up. So for 22, these are completion. Process that involves one or more substances changing into new substances is known as a chemical change. It's actually changing into something new, so therefore it's chemical. 23. Cutting a sheet of paper is an example of a blank change. That is physical. It is still the same piece of paper, just in a smaller proportion. 24. A blank property enables a substance to combine with or change into one or more substances. This is a chemical property. Number 25. A sugar is a blank form of matter with a definite shape and volume. Sugar is a solid. So therefore, got a definite shape and volume. All right. Number 26, I'm just going to talk about this one. #26 is You are provided with a 20 milliliter solution of methanol and water. What technique would you use to separate it? Identify the compounds of the solution. Yeah. Provide specific details on the method used. Why would you choose this method? So, methanol and water, they're both liquids, and when they're combined, you can't tell the difference between the two. It just looks like a clear liquid. So, what you do, you have to use distillation. What distillation does, it will basically boil or raise the temperature up of the liquid solution to the boiling point of the, I'll say, compound that has the lowest boiling point. That will separate the either the methanol from the water or the water from the methanol, depending on which one has the lower boiling point. It'll raise up through a tube, be collected at another beaker once it's recondensed. Basically, whenever you do this, this is part C, whenever you do this precisely, this can separate substances that have boiling points that maybe only differ by a couple degrees. So it can be very accurate, very thorough, and just a very good technique to use when you have two identical looking liquids. So distillation would be used there. Now, 27. This shouldn't be that difficult. I'll write it out. Thank you, I'm trying my best. Alright, 27. So you have, I'll write this out again. 13 grams of calcium. React with bromine. To form 24 grams of calcium bromide. That should be a 2, I believe. Trying to remember off the top of my head. So, how many grams of bromine are used in the reaction? Once again, this is just a simple calculation. It's a subtraction. You have 24 grams of this compound. 13 grams of it is calcium. What's the remaining in bromine? When you do the math, you are left with 11 grams of bromine. So 13 grams of calcium and 11 grams of bromine form 24 grams of calcium bromide. Should be fairly straightforward. That is number 27. And last but not least, let me move the camera again. 28. This is percent by mass. So what is the percent by mass of 1 if 4.07 grams of it reacts with 10.63 grams of 2? So mass of Roman numeral 1, mass of Roman numeral 2. That is 4.07 grams, and this is 10.63 grams, and they form a compound that has a mass of 14.7 grams. Yes, I realize you can't see yet, All right. So it wants to figure out the percent by mass of both of these elements. So what you do, mass of element 1 divided by mass of the compound times 100. So I'll write it out and then talk about it. Then for number 2, same stuff, just using these numbers. All right. So in comes the calculator. My lamp is in the way. It's shining a light. Try to get it to focus. All right. 4.07 divided by 14.7 gets us, then when we times it by 100, this gets us an answer of 27.7. Which is 27.7% of I is this compound. Then if we do the next one, 10.63 divided by 14.7 times 100, that gets you 72.3%. Of element 2. So, I will try to show this paper as best as I can. There is the entire study guide on one page. So, do you have any questions over this? Anything that needs to be done? Just throw out a comment real quick. If not, this will be still available. You can view it on here, or you can go to YouTube. Channel there is The Chemist. Same as here. So it'll be up there for the remainder of the school year. There you have it. This will be worth 28 points. Point per question. Number 26 may be worth 2. We'll find out. So, that being said, I think that's just about it if no one has any questions. I'll give you a couple more minutes in case. While we're waiting, I'm just going to turn up the Minecraft music. Maisie RG. When should Papa's Pizzeria be played? Tomorrow after the test? Probably. You better. That's all I have to say about that. Well. That'll be alright. Alright. So, in about 10 minutes, the stream will be live again with Minecraft. So, that is your study guide. That is everything. We'll see ya.